So, picture this. I'm out on one of those leisurely Sunday strolls, the kind where you don't really have anywhere to be and your only goal is to see some trees and maybe find an excuse to stop for a coffee. It was early spring, the kind of day where the air still has that hint of winter chill, but the sun is trying really hard to convince you that summer's coming soon. I'm wandering through this small, picturesque town, the sort with those postcard perfect streets and old community halls that look like they've been there since, I don't know, forever. I round a corner and suddenly I'm hit with this weirdly fancy scene through the big windows of the community hall. People everywhere dressed up to the nines, laughing, holding champagne flutes, and milling around between beautifully arranged flower bouquets and sparkling fairy lights. The whole place looks like it's straight out of a romantically tragic movie, except it's bright and cheerful. For a second, I just stand there blinking, trying to figure out whether I walked into some kind of weird upscale garden party or maybe a movie shoot. Because honestly, in my usual sneakers and hoodie, I look about as out of place as a cat at a dog show. And then it hits me. I'm not just near some fancy event. I'm smack dab in the middle of what is unmistakably the cocktail hour of a wedding. Like there's a white arch with flowers, bridesmaids giggling with their glasses raised, and me, completely underdressed and uninvited, just standing there with this "oh no" look plastered across my face. I mean, seriously, how does a guy just accidentally crash a whole wedding? That's not supposed to happen in real life, right? But there I was, in my casual weekend gear, surrounded by people who clearly were not expecting some random dude to stroll through their carefully planned celebration as if he was just window shopping. And the best part? I had no clue how I got there. No invitation, no inside scoop. Just me, wandering around like I knew what was going on, while every fancy shoe and expensive dress around me reminded me just how badly I had screwed up walking into the wrong place at exactly the wrong time. So yeah, that's how my ordinary Sunday took a turn into complete chaos, and trust me, it only got messier from there. Alright, so here's where things really start to spiral. I was supposed to have this chill, no-pressure weekend. Just me and Sarah, my partner in crime when it comes to spontaneous plans that usually flop or somehow land us in hilarious trouble. Nothing fancy, no grand adventures, just a lazy Saturday that involved maybe grabbing tacos and binge-watching something dumb. Sarah, though, had other ideas. She came bursting into my apartment Friday night, her eyes all sparkly like she just cracked the code to the weekend fun. "Hey, there's this community event tomorrow," she said, practically vibrating with excitement. "It's supposed to be this big seasonal fare-free stuff, live music, food trucks. We should totally check it out." Now, the word freeze always kind of gets me, and the fact that she seemed genuinely hyped made it hard to say no. Fast forward to the next day, I'm dragging myself out of bed wearing, well, exactly what I usually wear when I'm running errands or avoiding human interaction. Old sneakers, sweatpants, and a hoodie that's seen better days. Sarah, on the other hand, is already buzzing with energy, dressed like she's ready for a festival, clutching a tote bag with some vaguely hippie vibe to it. We hop on our bikes, cruising through the town's quiet streets, chatting about whatever random nonsense was on our minds. The sun is out, birds are doing their chirpy thing, and me? I'm starting to wonder if this whole free event thing is actually going to be as cool as Sarah promised. We arrive downtown near the community hall, and there's this crowd forming outside a building that looks pretty much like the usual town hall. Only, weirdly dressed people are spilling out, and there's this slippery sense of elegance in the air that makes me clutch my hoodie a little tighter. "This must be it," Sarah says, practically pulling me toward the doors. She's so confident, like she knows for a fact we're about to have the best day ever. So, we stroll inside, expecting some stands of local crafts, maybe a bouncy castle for kids, or at least some good snacks. But right away I get this weird vibe. Instead of stalls and cheerful chaos, there are polished tables with white tablecloths, and the walls are decked out with flowers in every corner. Everyone inside looks like they just stepped out of a fashion magazine, sipping on fancy drinks in crystal glasses while exchanging these polite, tight-lipped smiles that scream celebration, but whisper, "Please don't mess this up." I glance around and realize there are no booths, no music blasting from speakers on the lawn, just this dim hum of polite chatter and the clinking of glasses. My stomach flips when a waiter glides past and shoots me a look that could curdle milk, eyes narrowed like he's silently asking, "Who let you in here?" Sarah spots a station with some drinks and heads straight for it, still oblivious to the sinking feeling growing in my chest. I trail behind, trying to act casual, which, let's be honest, is the opposite of what I'm doing because, hello, sneaking into a fancy gathering without a clue counts as peak uncool. As I make my way deeper into the room, snippets of conversations float around. "The bride is radiant tonight. Such a gorgeous venue. Did you see the flowers? Well, magnificent." And I'm just standing there, hoodie tightening around me like a security blanket from the shame I'm about to feel. I catch another glare from that same waiter, more like an accusation now. I almost want to apologize right then and there for existing. People are starting to lean in and exchange glances, their whispers growing louder. I catch phrases like, Who invited the guy? And is that some sort of joke? Yeah, that's definitely not the kind of attention anyone wants at a posh event. Meanwhile, Sarah, blissfully unaware, grabs a glass of what looks suspiciously like champagne and looks my way with a big grin. See? This totally beats our usual Saturday plans, right? Right then, I'm not entirely sure how to answer. Because reality is, we're the only ones here who don't belong, and community event suddenly seems like the most misleading phrase in the English language. And so here I am, stuck in the middle of a crowd that's slowly noticing the elephant in the room. The sweaty guy in a hoodie who thinks he's crashing a fair but is actually crashing a wedding, with zero clue about how to sneak out gracefully. Which naturally meant that the chaos was only just getting started. Alright, so now things really start sliding off the rails. Sarah and I are standing there, emphasis on trying to blend in like we actually belong at this glittery shindig. She's perched next to the drinks table, happily scanning the options like a kid in a candy store, while I'm attempting the classic act natural pose, which, in a hoodie and sneakers surrounded by gowns and suits, might as well be a blinking neon sign saying, "Imposter alert." Sarah reaches for a champagne flute just as another guest nearby sips from a glass. And then, as if on cue from some cosmic prankster, the unthinkable happens. Sarah tips her elbow, and suddenly this pink cocktail leaps out of her glass like it's on a mission, flying right onto the pristine white dress of the woman standing next to us. The ripple effect is almost immediate. The guest gasps, her eyes widening as the stain blooms across her fabric like a crimson disaster zone. "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry," Sarah stammers, grabbing napkins with trembling hands. I'm frozen, partly because I have no idea what to do, and partly because I swear every pair of eyes in the room is now glued to us. And then the music stops. Or maybe it was just me finally noticing the sudden hush, but either way, all action seemed to slow down. Heads begin turning toward the epicenter of this accidental chaos, and before I can even process what's happening, the bride herself approaches. She's a force of nature, this woman. No dainty steps, no polite, "Could we chat for a moment?" She strides up, eyes locked onto me with zero patience. "Excuse me," she says, voice sharp enough to slice through glass. "Can you explain why you're here?" I blink because, well, my best answer up to that point was, funny you should ask. Instead, I blurt out something about a community event, a fair, mix-ups. I ramble, honestly, and it just makes everything sound sketchier. Sarah's trying to play damage control, wafting napkins and muttering apologies, but it's like we've both just written our own tickets to eviction. The bride folds her arms, clearly unimpressed, and then turns to the growing crowd for support, but the groom steps in before things escalate further. He's this tall guy with the kind of composure you'd expect from someone who just finished defusing a bomb, not freaking out like the rest of us. He gives me a wry smile. "Well," he says lightly, "if we wanted a surprise act tonight, looks like we got one." Some of the tension cracks like ice breaking on a spring pond. Guests exchange bemused glances, whispers shifting from suspicion to curiosity. The groom's good-humored take somehow softens the mood, and for a moment, I actually consider that maybe this disaster could swing the other way. But then, as the bride shoots the groom a look somewhere between gratitude and mild exasperation, I can't help but wonder, do I actually get to stay and redeem this mess? Or am I about to become the most infamous party crasher this town has ever seen? So, the groom's quick wit really did a number on the room's tension. Instead of sending me straight to the door like some unwanted column of dirt, he laughed and said, "You know what? If you're gonna crash this thing, you might as well have a drink with us." Sarah gave me this shocked but amused look like, did that just happen? And honestly, I was half expecting someone to snap out of it and shoo us off at any second, but no one moved. The guests, even the grumpy waiter, seemed to relax a bit, some even chuckling under their breath. The bride, after giving me one last piercing look, nodded sharply and said, "Fine, but you're on thin ice." It was the kind of warning that sounded serious, but also kind of like permission disguised as a threat. I took it as my cue to breathe a little easier. From there, things just shifted. Somehow, Sarah and I, total outsiders, ended up roped into this whirlpool of celebration. We found ourselves filing onto the dance floor when the music kicked up again, me awkwardly shuffling to beats I had zero skill for, and Sarah unleashing her signature dance moves that, well, definitely caught people's attention for all the wrong reasons. Then came the unexpected moment. The best man, who apparently had spotted our accidental arrivals, handed me the microphone with a grin that said, "You're on." I panicked, but Sarah gave me a nudge, and before I could chicken out, I was standing in front of a sea of well-dressed people who all suddenly looked like my judgmental high school teachers. Hey everyone," I started, voice cracking just a bit. "So, funny story. We thought this was a community fair, not a wedding, which, yeah, we totally crashed your party." There were some laughs, nervous, gentle, but laughs nonetheless. Feeling my courage build, I raised my glass. Here's to unexpected adventures, spilled drinks, and making the best out of weird situations. Sarah joined in, winking at me like we had this whole survival team thing going. I looked around at the smiling faces, the bride who'd softened into a small smile, and the groom who gave me a thumbs up from across the room. The initial chaos had melted into something warm and kind of wonderful. Later that night, I caught myself thinking how strange it was, how a seemingly embarrassing blunder could evolve into one of the most memorable nights in recent memory. I mean, sure, crashing a wedding wasn't on my weekend itinerary, but somehow, that accidental detour became a story for the ages. And it got me wondering, has there ever been a time when a similarly awkward, unexpected moment pushed you into a place or situation you never saw coming? Because if so, maybe those chance mess-ups aren't really mess-ups at all. They're just oddly perfect plot twists waiting to happen.